Hey everyone, hope you had an amazing week as usual. Now, the video I had planned for this week hasn't worked out. I'm actually trying to finish off the gravel bike. I know you guys are wanting that as one of the most requested videos I've had for a long time, but it's just been taking a little while. Now, I've only had 4 days, 3 days by the time I get the Patreon video up to do the gravel bike video, and it involves painting, and yeah, the paint just needs more time to dry. So that bike is coming soon, hopefully next week. So I went onto my Patreon and asked them if they had any questions they'd like me to answer. So this is a Patreon Q&A. I have all the questions here and hopefully I'll be able to get through all of them. So let's get started. Lawrence Van Rossum, hope I'm saying your name right. How is the van build going? Well, the van build isn't going, not yet anyway. With my YouTube creation, I do actually find it quite hard to go and commit to other projects. So the van build is certainly something I want to do. Whether or not I will actually do it myself, or maybe I'll get someone else to do it for me, I haven't decided yet. There's actually a company just outside Glasgow that I'd love to get involved called The Ply Guys. I know they do some amazing builds, so perhaps I'll get them to do it for me and actually end up with something decent rather than me try and do something and end up with something rubbish. But when that'll be, I don't know. I do love having a van though. I've spent a few nights in it just in a Z bed. It's been a little bit on the cold side, but having a van, even without it converted, is pretty amazing. Got Jonathan Cobb next. How's it going finding a big bike company sponsor? And without a large sponsor, how do you manage injury? Do I have insurance to cover long periods off the bike, or am I able to cover these times with income from YouTube/patrons and smaller sponsorship deals? Well, yeah, as some of you may know, over the last few years, I have been trying to get a bigger bike brand involved for the mountain bike kind of things. Although I'm sure every single one of you knows that these last few years has been a little bit difficult trying to get any products because of the whole COVID thing going on. It's been the worst time to ask for any kind of sponsorship, believe me. So the last few years I've not been that successful, and I'm not surprised. But for the first time in years, I actually have two decent brands, two brands I absolutely love, who have said they are interested in working with me. And they're both brands I absolutely love. I would be super stoked to be involved with either of them. I haven't yet signed anything though, so it's not over till the fat lady sings. But fingers crossed, as of maybe even next month or the start of winter, going into next year, I will have a bike brand involved in the channel and I'll be doing a lot more mountain biking, and I can't wait. As for the injury insurance stuff, no, I don't have any insurance. I used to have insurance years ago, but then I kind of was struggling with money a little bit, so I actually cancelled that. I probably should reinstate it again because yeah, if I do end up hurt myself, then I probably still could make money with YouTube, but it wouldn't be ideal, especially if it's a real long-term injury. So yeah, I think some kind of insurance is probably going to be worth it. Philip Vitsnik, I hope I'm saying your name right. How am I doing, Ali? How's the cute thief? I'm actually doing pretty well. I still have my niggling neck issue going on, but I did manage to ride the trials bike in a quarry the other week, mostly pain-free, and that was quite a few hours, so that's good. I have been taking it easy, trying to rest more. I've been going to the gym a little bit, and even stuff like sleeping. I normally sleep with my head down like that, so I'm really kind of making a conscious effort to sleep with my head up, and it seems to be helping. Even just walking about day to day, I'm not in as much pain as I used to be, so that's a pretty good thing. As for the cute thief, he is down here. Let me grab him for you. So here is the cute thief. He's looking a little bit raging because I just chased him around the house to grab him, but he's doing really well. I was just saying to Jane last night that he has got a pretty decent life. He's got a lovely house, he's got outdoor time, he's got other cat friends he can play with. He's even got a fireplace he can lie in front of an open fire, so he's got a pretty good life. He's also been pretty busy. He's been rewarding me for treating him well, and I have quite a few cool bike builds to do. So after the gravel bike, this guy's got some pretty interesting things, don't you? Eh? Do you want to go? Alright, off he pops. So yeah, he's doing really well. He's such a cool little guy. Next up, Simon Betteridge. What size 5010 do I run, and what happened to my Specialized? So I'll start with the Specialized. I actually sold that quite a few years ago, mainly because I found the frame size was a little tall and the saddle kept on getting in the way. But mainly it had a steering lock, which means the handlebars could only go to a certain point, which when you're trying to do jibby stuff, maybe spins on the front wheel, even back wheel spins, having your bars only go to a certain point really got in the way. So I got rid of the bike. And actually the money I ended up getting from selling the bike, I bought Jane's engagement ring with, so it went to a good cause. As for the 50-10 size, it's actually a medium, which is pretty good for the jibbing stuff. It's actually Danny's old bike, so I probably would have gone a size up to a large, or maybe even an extra large. I'm not super tall, but if I was actually riding it for trail use, for its intended use, it's a little bit on the small side. But for the jibby, trailsy stuff, a medium is pretty decent. And to let you know, I'm about 5'11" or 177 centimeters, if that helps. Next up, we've got Chris De Jong. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm probably murdering a lot of these today. Hi Ali, this is a random question. I see a lot of videos floating around of people doing street trials on their full suspension mountain bikes, and they're popular maybe because the bikes are more relatable. What's your opinion on the stresses these bikes go through? Is there any build that you'll be able to handle this type of riding for 6 months plus? So street trials on full sus is popular, and I love doing it and would love to do more of it, and certainly if I end up with a bike sponsor, mountain bike sponsor, I will certainly be doing more of it. For reliability, I've actually never broken anything on a full sus bike doing street trial stuff other than a bash guard, which was in one video where I just smacked it sideways and it was completely ripped off. Other than that, I've never, oh no, I have blown up a rear shock as well. Maybe I'll add that there. But other than that, is there anything else? No, I don't think I've broken anything else. Never broken any wheels, never snapped a chain, which is surprising, never ripped off a mech, never bent a disc rotor. I think mountain bikes these days are pretty damn reliable. Certainly I've been using some pretty high-end components, which I think you're gonna end up with stronger parts that way, better made. I think if I was riding street trials on something a little lower level, you may end up breaking a few more things. But yeah, I think bikes these days are pretty reliable and can handle quite a lot of abuse. As for any build that would handle 6 or more months of riding, yeah, my Santa Cruz has survived quite a few years of riding and I've not had to touch anything. So like I said, as long as you've got kind of modern parts and you're not absolutely trashing your bike off the side of walls, it's probably going to be okay, so I wouldn't worry too much about specific specs. Got Bob Ellison next. Is there anywhere in the UK you haven't ridden that I'd like to? A Patreon ride along maybe? So yes, street trials wise, there's quite a few places I've never ridden. Reading is a popular street trials location and I've never ridden there. I've only ever ridden Oxford once, I'd like to go back. And there's actually quite a few natural places I'd love to go to as well, like Portland down in, I think it's like Cornwall or Devon. Even places up in the Highlands I've driven past but never ridden, so I'd love to go and explore up there. As for mountain bike stuff, yeah, there's loads of places. There's bike parks in Wales, quite a few of them which I've never ridden. There's The Track down in Cornwall again, which looks awesome. And just general places in like northern England where I used to live, which, yeah, I used to live there, yet I've never ridden mountain bike much. So yeah, loads and loads of places. As for a Patreon ride-along, I think that would be an awesome idea. I know a lot of my patrons are international, so how possible that would be for a lot of them, I don't know. But even if 2 people turn up, that could be pretty good fun. So yeah, next year perhaps. Eric M. Hey Ali Clarkson. Hey Eric. Now that you have a place to store a Trials motorbike, are you interested in getting one? Have you tried one before? Thanks for the great vids. Cheers Eric. Yes. I have tried motor trials before. I used to have a 1997 Gas, just a 125, and it was one of the most fun things I've ever had in my life. Being in West Yorkshire, I was quite lucky in that I could actually just ride it from my house up onto the moorlands, illegally admittedly, but I could do it and I did do it and it was amazing fun, loved it. Back then I didn't have a van, so I couldn't really take it to anywhere good, so I never really rode it that much. I didn't get to any decent level on it. I do find swapping from the mountain bike trials bike to a motor trials is really weird because of just where the brakes are, but I would love to get another motor trials bike, and when I have some disposable income, it's high on the list. I mean, especially when I've got Bob McGregor's Moto Trials practice area 20 minutes away from my house, it's a no-brainer. I should definitely get one. Jonathan Cobb, what is the best or biggest bargain the Cute Thief has ever scored you? Could be the rarest or the best value. I recently picked up some used E-Wings for less than 10th of their RRP. Absolute bargain, those amazing cranks. What is the best bargain the Cute Thief has ever got me? He's actually got me so much stuff now that I've completely forgotten half of it. Okay, I'm going to ruin some dreams here, but the Cute Thief doesn't always get me the parts. And one part he didn't get, but was probably the biggest bargain, was the Cannondale, but not the one I'm building. The one I'm building, I sourced that frame only, nothing else on it, for about £120, which I thought was pretty decent. I spent ages trying to find one and that turned up, The paint job wasn't amazing, but I was going to paint it anyway, so yep, got that, happy enough with it. But a bit like buses, when one comes along, another comes straight after it, and shortly after buying that frame, I saw a full bike come up for sale, and it was in pretty decent condition for about £200, head shock, and it had full XTR gear on it as well. I couldn't refuse. I already had the frame. I didn't need another one, but for that price and a backup frame and a full XTR kit for £200, I had to get it. So yeah, I reckon that is the best bargain that I've had yet. Peter asks, have I ever snapped a pair of forks? If so, did it cause a nightmarish crash? Right, I'll answer that. It's got another question. I'll answer that first. Yes, I have snapped a pair of forks, but years and years and years ago, I'm talking like over 10 years ago, I could see that they were cracked, and I deliberately kind of tried to make them snap. So it wasn't like a spectacular bail or anything like that, but it still took me by surprise a little bit, and I think I almost hit my face on the tyre. So no, it wasn't a disastrous crash. I managed to spot the crack and just snap them on purpose. I've been really lucky because I've used some pretty dodgy forks, and maybe still am using some dodgy forks if you see my latest videos. But yeah, touch wood, I've not had any bad crashes, and I hope I never will, because snapping forks is horrendous. His second question is, and I like this one, would I rather do a year of only high level competition riding on a street trials bike, national elite level, or a year of only street on a comp bike? That's actually a really cool question and a really difficult one to answer. But I think I'll probably go for a year of street riding on a competition bike. Mainly because if I try to enter a elite level comp on my street trials bike, I probably wouldn't even make it through the first gate. A longer comp bike really does make a huge difference on some of the bigger moves in comps, so I think I'll just have a bit of a boring time just going and failing all these sections. Whereas I do find it difficult to ride a modern comp bike, but after a year you'd get used to it, and I think you could actually do some really, really fun stuff. Certainly I watch riders like Jack Carthy and Charlie Rolls, and even though I'll never get to even half their level, I think if I could even remotely ride a modern comp bike, it looks really fun. Those guys make it look really fun. So yeah, a year of street on a comp bike would be my answer. Mike Thunder, old friend of mine, a while ago you did trials with a Freecoaster. How about a fixed wheel? Yeah, that was a while ago. Did a video on a Freecoaster hub, and it did open up some really cool street lines, like being able to do fakie manuals without pedaling backwards and stuff. It was really, really fun, but it had about 3 engagement points, so actually doing any static trials moves was almost impossible. Now, riding trials on a fixed hub has actually been quite a common question, and maybe it's something I should try sometime. I can't imagine how hard it would be though, having just fixed so you can't ratchet back. Being able to ratchet back is such a vital thing for doing like pedal gaps and stuff. You'd have to almost gap and then in midair pedal backwards, and then you have your wheel. I can't work out what it would be like, so I have this impression in my head that it'd be next to impossible, but maybe I should just try it and find out. Val next. You've said before in your vlogs that you have a bit of autism. The same here. Would you say bikes are your special interest? So yeah, if you're new to the channel, I was diagnosed with autism, with Asperger's syndrome when I was in my teens. It's not something I'm ashamed or shy about. It's just something I don't really talk about unless it comes up in questions like this. Are bikes my special? Yes, bikes are definitely my special interest, absolutely. If you guys don't know, people with autism normally have something they obsess about, one subject they try and master, they know everything about inside out, and yeah, bikes are my thing. I'm not claiming to be the most knowledgeable person in the world, but I do know a lot about bikes. I obsess about them, I love every aspect about them, fixing them, working on them, riding them, old tech, new tech. I absolutely love bikes, and most of my friends are only my friends if they're interested in bikes, because I don't have anything else to talk about. So yeah, absolutely. And before bikes, it was animals. I always wanted to be the next David Attenborough, but as soon as I saw bikes, they gave me some freedom. I loved the tech, they just took over. So I still love animals, but bikes took over as my main obsession. Be interested to know, Val, what is your main interest? Paul Franklin asks, if I had an acre of my own bike park, what permanent features would I build? Now the house I grew up in actually had 2 acres of land, but this was in the Pennines in the UK. That is a hill range that's quite long, and I happened to live on the steepest bit, so my land was like that, so practically unrideable. If I had some flat land about an acre, what would I build? Well, an acre, it's not that much, so you probably couldn't build any trails or anything like that. So I'd probably build some trialsy stuff. There's a few places in the UK that are trials centres and trials parks where they have like concrete pipes, telegraph poles, rocks, concrete shapes, all kinds of stuff lined up, and hold competitions there. You may have seen some in my videos, and I'd probably build something like that. Next up, and the last question, is Dave Canton. He asks about crank lengths, 26-inch street bike, 170 or 175mm crank lengths. So my general rule is shorter is better, but I will run 175s if they're the only things around. 165 or 170s are my preference though. Basically, shorter cranks are usually stronger because you have less leverage on them. Sometimes they can be a little bit lighter if they're physically shorter cranks, although sometimes they just drill the hole a little bit closer, so there's no weight difference. I find if your feet are a bit closer together, balance can be a little bit easier, a little bit like a motorbike where they have their feet directly next to each other. Having your feet close together helps with balance. I also find for run-ups, having slightly shorter cranks makes your pedal smoother because you're going less distance, it's less jerky, it's more of a smooth pedal, so shorter run-ups generally are a little bit better. And with my gear ratio on my street trials bike with 22 on the front, 18 at the back, I find with longer cranks like 175, that can be a little bit too light of a gear. With shorter cranks, it just makes it a little bit harder, and I prefer that. That's my preference. However, longer cranks probably suit taller riders a little bit more. If your gear ratio is a little bit too hard, then longer cranks can help with that too. Okay, we're going to wrap that up. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much to my patrons for asking these questions. I hope you all learned something from this. Hope you have an amazing week, and I'll catch you next time where hopefully I'll have finished the gravel bike. So take care everyone. Bye bye.